to the webinar this week. We've had a break of 2 weeks and it's good to be back and nice to have people from all around the country again. So welcome, no matter where you are, from a chilly and cold Cape Town with some rain predicted later this afternoon, which is always a good thing for our dams. So where are we now with this narrative strategy that we're developing for a business? Well, it's a number of things. It's got to do with taking your business to market. It's taking your business out of the file, out of the theoretical part, and putting it into the market. And we've spoken about telling stories and how to format the stories. And if you've missed any of those, then we really encourage you to go back and review some of these, and they're all available online for you to do. And I've actually put a link for you on the side there where you can go look at the expertise homepage that we have, and all the videos are listed down the right hand side, so you can go back and enjoy and redo those and review. So where we're talking today is, well, where do we use the business? How do you tell your business story and where it needs to be used? And if you've got any questions, please use the little slide there on your right hand side of the screen, and you can ask questions and I'll answer them at the end, and we'll hang around after the webinar to chat to anybody that wants to get involved, or you can just email me. My email will be up at the end of the webinar. So I want to talk about 5 different things today, 5 different places on how to tell your story. And we're going to unpack each one of these a little bit and give you a little hint, and then it's up to you to go and practice and tell your story. We're having a huge amount of fun with some of our clients, unpacking stories and helping create proper business plans and process flows and marketing, client engagements. And so without waffling on there, let's just review a little bit what a good story is. Well, a good story comes in a number of parts. Firstly, you've got to have 3 main character roles. You've got to have a hero, and the hero's only a hero because there's a princess, and the princess is only a princess because she has a need and she needs to be rescued, and to stop all that, there's a villain. Now, it's not a gender-based thing, it's just a role of a character. The hero can be a him or a her or an it. The hero can be a product, the hero can be something, and that goes towards the princess as well. The princess is the end goal. It could be a loan from the bank that you want to get. It could be a clean white shirt after your son's come back from playing soccer. Whatever it is there, that's the end goal. And your hero has to play a role in achieving that goal or getting to his princess. But there's something that stands in the way, and that's always the villain, and it's the role of the villain to stand in the way and make things hard. Otherwise, it's just a boring story. So we want the story to have some twists and turns, and so we throw in a villain into that. And then what we do is we then look at other supporting characters, and so we've got a list of all these different characters that we have there: the creator, nurturer, rebel, explorer, innocent sage, jester, magician, ruler, regular guy, and the lover. Now again, they're not gender specific. We've just put them up like this. And again, there could be various roles. There could be you as your company playing this role. It could be your brand. It could be an external consultant. It could be various players that come in and out of the scenarios that we have there. As we tell the story, so we unpacking, and so we undoing, and we're creating the story plots and the levels of the different plot points within your story. So remember, we spoke a little bit about the story structure. This is the hero story, the 3-act story, the 14 plot points, and all along there where they are there. And the act 1 is once upon a time. Every day, this and this, the inciting moment comes in at the end of chapter or act 1. Then we go into act 2, which is a number of cyclonic smaller stories, but in that the hero learns and he gains. wisdom and intrigue and knowledge, and by the end of Act 2 then he's able to, through a major setback, he has to let go of the once upon a time, but he emerges in Act 3 as the new found, the new created, the rebirth of the hero because of what he's achieved. He's overcome the villain, and he then gets connected, or he's able to achieve or marry the princess, and they lived happily ever after. So that's the basic of the story, the format of that. We've got a number of different structures that you can play around with that, but that's the formula that you run with it. And whether you're telling a 90-minute movie story or a 90-second marketing story on your website, it's got to follow the structure for maximum impact as well. So what we've done, we've put together a storyboard, and it looks like this, and you can get copies from us, and it literally fill in all the blocks. It's how to tell stories by numbers. You fill in all the blocks and you've got your story. So it's quite easy. We've been using this with our own stories and with our clients, and it's proving to be hugely successful. The problem that we're having there is the pages are too small and people want to cram everything in there. So what we're doing, we're just writing it out. We're using this as like a guideline or a template, and then we're unpacking that as we go to be able to get it to a point where we can make more sense there. The important part is that last block at the lower right hand corner is the moral, the story moral, and what is the lesson that you want people to learn by telling a story, because there's no use telling a story without an end. And you want that moral. So normally, you look at Aesop's fables with all the morals there, those are obvious, but not all the stories have an obvious end. If it's a marketing story, then the moral becomes obvious, like buy more, buy from us, see who we are, etc., etc. But if it's an internal process, it could be a compliance, it could be there. So let's unpack some of those, and we want to get there. So we found also that moral story block is a little too small at the bottom there, and people often just ignore it because, oh no, I don't know what it is there. But it really is, it's the end, and we always begin with end in mind. So we want to define the moral of the story up front and get that done. So let's get back. Defining the business. We've got a number of businesses that we work with and our own, and there's a couple of things that really define the business apart from the logo and the slogan and your graphic representation of the business. We always go back to these, is that what is the purpose of the business? What is the vision, the mission, and the values of any organization? And it's very important to have those clearly defined because those become your true north. And it's so easy to be distracted by other things. And so often come in and say, oh yeah, we've had this new opportunity, and off we go off the off-ramp, and we go round and round and round into other places. The vision and the mission keep you on track. It's your compass point, compass bearing, and you've always got to keep adjusting back to where you're planning to go. Otherwise, you're never going to get there. So just to that, I was speaking to an airline pilot, and he does a lot of transatlantic flights. And so they leave New York and they're heading for Heathrow, and they fly across the Atlantic for kind of 9.5 hours until they get there. And they set what they call this autopilot, which is a self-steering computer that they set it. And it looks at various waypoints as you go across, because the Earth curves and you've got to keep kind of turning. So they then land. He says that if they're 1 degree off on their course, then they're going to land in France and not in England. And it's that wide an error, just for 1 degree. And so often people are just 1 degree out and 1 degree, and it's just a minor thing. We're just going to do this, and we're just going to do this, and we're just going to do this. And we end up veering way, way off course there. And the guy said is that 98% of the time the airplane's off course, but the autopilot's job is to keep on adjusting and keep on adjusting back on course, back on course, back on course, back on course, as the winds and everything needs to adjust for that as the plane flies over the Atlantic. And it's very similar to our lives and your business. So the vision and the mission and the values go very clearly with defining where your compass point is. The purpose is, again, It's the moral. Why are you in business? What is that sort of stuff? And that's a story on its own. And I always get to people to tell me the story of why they started a business. And it goes, once upon a time, way back, I had a corporate job and then I got retrenched, or I got fired, or the company went bang, or I resigned because I didn't like my boss, and then I started my own business. And in that, it's a story. And we've got our heroes and our villains and our princesses. Some people start jobs, their own companies out of the great need for money. Other people start jobs because it's a passion, and they start this company because it's a true passion of theirs. Other people are left kind of clueless, and it's like, what I call accidental entrepreneurship. And each of those is a true story, and being able to tell your origin story goes a long way to developing your brand identity. And out of your purpose often comes the vision and the mission. The values are there, how you run your business. It's the rules of engagement. And then there's that little thing at the bottom which we call WIGS. Now, this is not a planning and goal setting thing, then we're going to get into WIGS later in future webinars, but WIGS stands for your wildly important goals. What are your wildly important goals? And those are the goals that you set that are wildly important. Each month we have a blue book which we have strategies with our clients, and in there we set wildly important goals. Where are you going? What is the main focus, and how are you going to overcome them and stuff? And each one of those needs a story. How are you going to achieve your wildly important goals? So these are kind of your high level storylines that we need to play back. As we unpack that, we get a business plan. Now, here's something you don't expect in a story lesson, is that a business model canvas. And yes, we use the business model canvas, and we've added another row at the top there to bring forward the vision, mission, and values into that. So what is a business plan? Well, a business plan is a story of your future, isn't it? It's just unpacking where your business is going. So it's got 9 different chapters. It's easy to read. You start off with, these are my clients. Number 2, this is what we're going to offer them. This is how we're going to get what we offer to them in chapter 3. This is how we're going to care for them in chapter 4. And this is how we're going to make money out of them in chapter 5. We then cut across to the other side. To do all this, we need key resources. These are the people we're going to engage with. This is the equipment. This is the IP. And this is what we're going to do. But we can't do it alone. We need key partners, and together we're going to have all these key activities that we've got. That's the part we call the engine room of the business. And then at the last chapter, these are the costs. This is what it's going to cost us. So it's a story that you tell. And what we do here is we tell the story over and over and over again with different aspects. What I'm looking for in a story is the imagination part. Now, it's great to have an imagination because every story needs a little bit of fantasy and a little bit of imagination. When you're telling your story about your business plan, is that imagination's allowed to come in, but what we call it assumptions. And every time you assume in your business plan, you're putting your business at risk. And it's a great way. If you're an MBA speaker, it's called risk mitigation process. Okay, big word for what are the assumptions in your story. So we like to look for the assumptions in the story. We analyze the assumptions. We tell that story further. We dive into the assumptions. Well, how do we make that assumption true? By maybe telling a different story. And we unpack that in a different story, and then the assumption becomes real, and we then are able to minimize that risk, and we then able to maybe introduce other characters into there, and slowly be filling up all those assumptions. Because each time you make an assumption, like I will run a workshop and people will come, or I will run a webinar and hundreds of people will come, these are all assumptions that you can't do. So what do you do to mitigate that risk and to be able to build that into a little better, firm up those plans to make sure that your business is not at risk, and you're able to manage those risks and then lower the risk value from maybe a 9 or 10 down to a 2 or 3, and to be able to run your organization like that. Make sense? That's the way we do business plans. Often it's done with a huge whiteboard. You can see on the wall behind me, we've got one of these actually on the wall with all of post-it notes stuck on that, and we keep moving those post-it notes around, and we fill them and we re-put them on there, and those are for our clients and for ourselves, and we play around with that storyboard called a business model canvas. And so we create the stories, and in doing so we mitigate all the risks, and we analyze that, and we're defining the processes. And so we come to the processes. So what are your processes in your business? Well, the business processes are just that. There are three main story flows that flow through every organization. It's your stock supply chain, and that's the story of your stock. I bring in raw materials from one side and they process through the business, and there's product coming out the other side. So it analyzes your procurement policies, your procurement procedures, and what you do with your manufacturing, assembly, packaging, dispatch, and all that, looking at the logistics throughout there, the ergonomics and the efficiency of all those flows. That's your stock supply chain. And we tell that story over and over again. It's really interesting to tell the story from different points of view. You can tell that story from a grain of sugar coming in one side and eventually going out to the other side, or you can tell it from the storeman's point of view and what he does, or somebody on the manufacturing line, or somebody in the office in the clerical side, or somebody in the marketing side. And you can then tell the story from multiple ways. And again, we're looking for assumptions, risks, and we manage those risks by unpacking those as well. And then we got your client relationships at the bottom there, and I've kind of drawn a flow chart, because in case you didn't know what a flow chart kind of looks like, those are the blocks and things that we would use. So we would allocate things, and we would say, okay, go from there, and then we divert and we go there, and there's that little thing there. And so we're looking at where your client, so what is the process flow from your first client engagement right through to the end. And the last story, there's your financial flow. What is your financial flow through the business? And again, you can tell that story by following a 1 rand coin from the beginning. It comes into the firm and it goes out the other side, or to the bank, and you can then revolve around that, and you can look at that. What we want to know is we want to know all the different papers and audit trails and all that sort of stuff that follow around the financial flow. But anyway, it's a story, and it's so fun to do that rather than sitting there on Visio and drawing out these huge process flows and looking at that and getting all MBA-ish. We want to just lower that and make it easier and more fun. It's so much fun to run your business based on story cards and characters, and we're always looking about where's the villain, and that's a question we keep on asking. Where's the villain? What is the princess? Where's the villain? What is the princess? Because we need to mitigate those villains, and we need to then achieve the princesses that we go along with. Okay, customer engagements. Now this is a good place to play. It's a good place to sort of come around and have a look where the individuals are and understand how it unpacks. And we have a sales cycle that we do with inform, educate, sell, upsell, resell. And it's that story, it's that storytelling on where you're going to do. You're going to have a story for the inform, you're going to have a story for the educate, a story for the sell, a story for upsell, and more stories for the resell. So each one is different stories, and each story has got different products that are related to it and stuff. So here we start really multiplying all the different stories that you have within an organization. Start off by choosing one product and one client type and tell that story and ask, what is the hero? Who's the villain? Who or what is the princess? And to perhaps to sort of go there. And I can tell you a little word of wisdom just to short circuit your learning there, is that you or your product is never the hero. If you think that you're the hero, you're getting the story thing completely wrong. Is that so often your client or the client's goal needs to be the hero. Because if your story means you are the hero, no one's going to be interested in your story. People are only going to be interested in your story if you make them the hero. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it, when you put it that way? But a lot of people still getting that wrong, and I'm watching quite a lot of adverts now, international adverts on YouTube and stuff, as well as the local stuff, and I'm seeing that probably 80 to 90% of the adverts I'm getting has got this formula wrong. They don't understand. They're trying to portray me, oh, and me, and me, and me. You because they have that wisdom, all-knowing attitude of I'm a very egocentric brand, and therefore if you engage with me, you will then get stuff right, but it's only because of me. And it's not that sort of brand. I yet to have any brand, including financial institutes, which are the sage brands and the wisdom brands and the wizards and things that are coming with huge effort there. But unless I become the hero, it's not going to work. There's one bank in South Africa with a new advert out there, and it really portrays their clients as the hero, and then enabling their online banking to go through various transactions. You might have seen the advert, but that one is more right than any of the others that we have at the moment. So it's really, really interesting with that. Okay, so let's go down to, on screen, there we go, marketing. Now this is obviously the main thing. We're going to spend quite a lot of time next week on this. So I'm going to unpack a full half hour for this. But what we want to do is we want to create stories with an emotion and purpose that are linked to your brand. That's what marketing is all about. It's about creating that purpose around your brand, and to be able to then develop those stories that involve your brand. You cannot do what a lot of companies are doing now, is find a random story about World War I, or this fisherman in the Philippines, or this what happened in 1822 or something like that, and then try link that to your brand at the end. It doesn't work. People remember the story because they're great stories, and that's why people are using it. But the ad agencies are getting lazy. The ad agencies are not doing their job properly. They need to tell relative stories that include the brand from day one. And we've got some really good ones that we're going to share on our Facebook page over the next week, with good stories, good emotional stories. And you can link to those, and you can then come and follow those and understand what good emotional stories are. There's one a Google advert that runs with these guys in India, and we'll put that one up this afternoon. And just understanding how that works, and you'll see that right from the level, it uses Google as that whole thing. But it's not Google's story. It's a story about these two guys that were friends at school, and they've drifted apart, and they come together, and there's a couple of underlying plots and stuff. It's beautiful. Have your tissues ready. It's a great story that we'll share with you there. The key thing is, if you get the story right, when people retell the story, they've got to include your brand. Now, I can retell a number of the stories with the adverts on TV at the moment. I don't even know what the brand is, because I didn't watch the last 2 seconds where it comes in there. But there's a whole lot of stories that if you get the story right, when people retell it, they have to. Like the Google story. I cannot tell that story without mentioning Google at least 7, 8, 9 times. And it's important that you get that right. I can tell a story, there was a fisherman and they went out and they caught lots of fish, and then the blah, and it's a lovely story. I can't remember where I saw that. So be careful on how you do that. Be careful on where you go and how that's unpacked there with that. And the nice thing about good stories is people want to share stories, and people love sharing stories. And the more they share the stories, the more referrals you're going to get. So when you view that video this afternoon, we're going to try and get it up as soon as possible. Go to the Facebook page. It'll be underneath this webinar. Go look at it, because it's a classic video all about Google, how they then create that. And you can only but refer Google, and Google have got this function and this function and this function, and those are the referrals that come out of retelling the story. And we're going to share the video, and it's going to be great, and I'm going to send it to my friend, and this and this and this. And each time you share that story, you're actually creating that brand footprint, which grows and grows and grows with your various levels of marketing. So that's what marketing story is all about. It's not just product placement, price, and all that sort of nonsense. It's about creating profitable relationships through the enabling of great emotional, solid, well-structured stories. And that's what we're going to get. Just remember, you put all your stories back on the storyboard, and we're going to put that together, and we'll unpack that one again next week, where we look at various stories and how that's going to work. and we're going to make that happen. And look at that, our time is almost up. I speak so fast, and we try and get through all this sort of stuff. I can sit here and chat for ages, on and on and on. But half an hour is what we've got, half an hour is what we've promised, and we want to get that going there. So I want to put it out to you. If you're listening to this and you're a little confused about where your story is for your business and where you're going, and you need to kind of formulate that sort of stuff. We've got a number of workshops that we're going to be doing next month, and we're going to combine the storytelling with social media next month. So we've got 4 weeks of social media training with stories in social media. And we're going to look at all the different platforms. We're going to unpack Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube, and over the 4 weeks, and unpack those and then say, how do you tell the story? Where do you source the stories? How do you put the stories onto that platform in the right format so it gets maximum impact? And so how are we going to then really create a marketing brand footprint for your business to make it effective and engaging? So if you want to know more about that, sign up for this webinar on expertise.tv. My name is Bruce Wade, and you can engage me either via email or via our website. Subscribe to our newsletter and engage with us. Come chat to us. We're based in Cape Town. And I'll say sunny Cape Town, but it's kind of, not so sunny at the moment, but come and chat. We're all ready. We can chat to you via Skype no matter where you are on the planet. You just need internet, and we can sit and have some time to help tell your stories. And that's it for the day. Thank you very much for joining us, all you guys. If you've got any questions, you can ask that in that little blocky there, and we'll then answer you. I'll hang around here for 3 or 4 minutes until everybody goes. This video is also going to be live, a recorded version in video format, back on our blog in the next couple of hours. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.